Hey everybody, welcome back into another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is October 14th, 2019. Big old show for you today. nah, it's that weird week where nothing's going on. Today is actually a federal holiday in Japan, so nothing coming out of there. Plus, they of course had a earthquake-laden typhoon hit the country over the weekend. Hopefully everybody over there is all right. Seeing reports from most of the model companies, reporting little to no damage. It did come ashore in the prefecture where all of the model kits are made. So good to see nobody, or not so much made, but at least the companies are headquartered. So it's good to see that everybody seems to have made it through. There were, unfortunately, some fatalities involved, but it does not directly impact the hobby beyond obviously just having, uh, you know, thoughts and prayers, as it were, out to people who were affected. So basically, we got one kit announcement and one kit release, and then you all can go about your day. The kit announcement is from the folks over at Salvino's JR. They have signed a new licensing agreement with Junior Johnson. I realize that this comes across making me sound like a horrible person, but I didn't realize Junior Johnson was still alive. I mean, good on him for living his retirement in peace and quiet and out of the limelight. Probably really enjoying himself. But yeah, whoops. But at any rate, they signed a new agreement with him, probably also with his family, and this is going to be a Cale Yarborough car that was a Junior Johnson racing vehicle. So you sort of get the mixture of two pieces of licensing here. This is going to be the 1979 Oldsmobile 442, the Bush liveried car. So, we've, of course, had our um, thoughts and feelings on Salvino's JR over the course of their time in business, but I will give them props for throwing a beer logo on the box art of a kit. It does have the 18 years and older thing on there, so it's a adult collectible, I guess. But if it actually comes out this way with all the Bush stuff on it, I gotta give him credit for not kowtowing to all the do-gooders out there that are gonna claim that little children are gonna start drinking Bush. I mean, 18 years is still too young, folks. Uh, but yeah, I know some of the Revell kits at the end of Revell's NASCAR thing, if you will, towards the 2000 to 2003 period had some sponsorships on it that in the day would not have been allowed, but they were marketed as adult collectibles. So technically speaking, they were allowed because we're not selling these to kids directly, and that just gets me off on a whole tangent about, of course, the stupidity of the idea that, well, like, kids are going to build a model kit and then start smoking, drinking, or dipping, but it is what it is, and I'm glad to see them, go ahead and say, yeah, we're putting the logos on here, and, I guess if there are ramifications, they'll deal with them later, so. At any rate, we'll go over to Japan for the one kit release for this week. It is this reissue out of Hasegawa of the Datsun 240Z Mr. K 50th anniversary kit. So, again, to do the backgrounding on this, Mr. K is the affectionate nickname of Yutaka Katayama, who was the president of Nissan North America back in the late 60s and early 70s. He served until about 1975 and got recalled back to Japan because, well, he was trying to sell cars and they didn't like that. Actually, he was very considered to be the father of the 510 and the Fairlady Z cars because he pushed them so hard. He pushed to have a larger engine in the 510 when it was imported into the United States. Very big push to do things that were sports cars and not economy cars. Just give Nissan, some semblance of not just putting out a bunch of pedestrian four-door economy cars, and was successful in that. I mean, the Z car still exists in the 370Z. I don't necessarily know what will come of that when this model cycle ends, as the 370Z has pretty much been relatively unchanged now for several years. The GTR is now, of course, the halo car here in the United States since 2008, which has sort of taken a little bit of the focus away from how important the Z car would be to the North American market in general, because of course now we can have a GTR. We couldn't have a GTR, when they were right-hand drive JDM only cars. So this car, as it stands, as the box art showed you, is a bright yellow ZG nosed car. So this is a very unique car just in general. Now, this is a left-hand drive car. It's a U.S. spec car because this was the car he owned here in the United States. That's why it is a Datsun and not a Nissan, and why it's a 240Z, not a Fairlady. All of the left-hand drive conversion parts that came in the reissue of the kit from a few months ago with the blue box art are in here. There's the wire wheels, which were on the box art there. You might go back and check on that, but believe me, they're there. Are brand new tooling for this kit. They'd never existed within the 240Z kits that Hasegawa has done in the past, so those are brand new. And then, unlike the original, if you will, US spec 240Z that was released a few months ago, this has the G nose on it. Now, I've heard back and forth different variations of the story as to whether or not you could really get this in the US or if it was a dealer installed option type of deal, or you could go buy the parts through Nissan North America and do your own conversion. But the 240Z here in the United States, of course, did not have the long nose with the composite headlight covers, because at the time composite headlight covers were a no-no. You weren't allowed to have those here. Look at all of the various Mercedes and whatnot that were, look awesome in their respective European style, but look awful in, U.S. spec because they had to get rid of the composite headlights and put seal beams in. So like I said, I don't think the ZG nose was technically something you could order. I think it was something you could get the parts for. They were more than happy to sell them to you, but I don't think you could get the car this way, which makes it, again, unique because it's a JDM spec, US spec car. So this is a car that you could only have built this way and order it in Japan. And then, of course, he had it swapped to US spec as far as the driving position, and then had it here. It is mercifully a nice 240Z in the sense that this is before the 5-mile-an-hour bumper nonsense started, and you wound up with the big park benches on the front and the back, like all cars did in about, 1975 or so. So, yeah, it's a very cool conversation piece. 50th anniversary because the 240Z, Fairlady Z, depending on which country you're in, came about in very late 1969. They started importing them here in the United States in 1970. So 1969 was, folks, 50 years ago. And obviously, you can paint this whatever color you want to, but if you want to make Mr. K's car, it is the bright banana yellow that the box art is. I believe the kit is also molded in yellow, if I'm not mistaken, but, take that for what it's worth, as I know that will cause a, great amount of cursing and wailing because, oh my god, it's molded in yellow. The primer will never cover it. It's going to bleed through my paint. But, again, if you're trying to build this as what it is, the 50th anniversary car, it's supposed to be yellow, folks. Sorry, it just is. This car does come with period. I'm not sure if they're technically period correct, but they do include the powder blue with yellow print California license plates that were around at that time. I'm not technically sure that's 1970 plate, but it looks period-ish correct. I'd have to have somebody who knows their California plate legacy to know if these decals are really correct. But again, it's just a cool extra touch to have his actual license plate and stuff like that. So anyway, guys, that wraps it up. That is it for this week. I know. I'm looking for something else to tell you about, and I got nothing. We did see test shots of the Mobius flatbed trailer over the weekend. We showed you the test shots, like the prototypes when they were at NNL East way back in April. The test shots of this just are plastic versions of it. So the tooling is done, and test shots are done. So and built. So it shouldn't be too terribly much longer before that comes out. I have absolutely zero release date information for you on that. Pegasus, in their ownership of Mobius, is very flighty, if you will, about that sort of thing. It's sort of like, oh, hey, it's done, we're going to release it kind of thing. There's no set release date with those guys. Mobius never really had one to begin with, so that's not really a big change in the goings on of that company. So when it comes around, we'll let you know. But for people who are interested in that piece of tooling of having a new trailer kit, the first modern flatbed kit since the old Fruhoff from AMT, that kit, like I said, is tooled now and should be coming along eventually. At least you know the project wasn't canceled or anything else like that. There was a lot of speculation 2 or 3 weeks ago that Mobius had gone out of business and they weren't going to make car kits anymore and blah blah blah. And of course that's just a huge giant internet lie rumor thing. And the proof of it being that, hey, look, this trailer tooling is done. So anyway, guys, I hope you had a great weekend. We are officially in fall here in Pennsylvania. We've had our first frost warning of the year over the weekend. I had to actually kick the furnace on and get that nice burnt dust smell in the house for the first run of the furnace this year. And anyway, it's good to not have it be hot again. Now I'll complain about the snow in a few weeks, probably, because it's not totally out of the ordinary for it to snow here by Halloween. So anyway, guys, we'll see you on the other side.